Yeah. Hey, I'm Fred. Welcome to Fred Higgins Into the Void. I just wanted to go ahead and make a quick video on my thoughts about Ozzy Osbourne passing yesterday at the age of 76, June 21st, 2025. I was out to lunch with a friend of mine, and randomly up in conversation, came the topic of rock icons passing away, and we were talking about Eddie Van Halen. When I was younger, those people, formed and shaped my appreciation of music. Inspired me to get into playing music. I remember Randy Rhoads passing away, and it was such a devastating loss. I didn't feel it quite that much back then. I was 12 years old, just beginning to get into to music, and but as my life went along, I realized, tremendous loss, that was, what could have been, what type of music he would have eventually created, and I felt terrible for Ozzy. I know Ozzy had a really rough time with that, but anyway, we were talking yesterday during lunch, and I brought up Eddie Van Halen, and I remember being, probably in my late teens, thinking about the mortality of these people, so many people died when they were 27, Kurt Cobain, and Jimi Hendrix, and Janis Joplin, and the list goes on, Stevie Ray Vaughan, maybe he wasn't 27, but these people had passed, I brought up Ozzy Osbourne, because I remember probably being 14, 15, 16, a friend of mine had passed away in a car accident at that time. He was about 17, and he drove into a tree at about 120 miles an hour, and another friend of mine died with him, and one of the friends survived, but he was very broken, and mortality came to the forefront in my mind. At that age, you think you're bulletproof, and but I remember thinking about Ozzy, and Ozzy he was the god of metal for me, the Prince of Darkness, and he was my idol. He had a huge influence over my music writing, my singing style, and I remember during this conversation yesterday, I said I didn't know what I was going to do when Ozzy Osbourne passed away, how I would feel, the devastation that I might feel. I'm sad to the core, but he lived a long, beautiful life. He gave us so much music, he didn't pass away at 27 and left everything on the table. I think he lived a full life, and he loved his family, he loved his pets, I really got to see, the human side of him, and I always loved him, I caught a lot of shit, when I was a teenager, from people that thought he was a nut, and he was a satanic influence, and biting the heads off backs, and he was an evil force, and but I knew better, I always knew better. I knew that, you know, I just wanted to make a video and come out and say that I love the man. You know, I had a chance to go see him, and I remember sitting in the audience, and my mind couldn't wrap around the fact that, you know, I was in the same space as Ozzy Osbourne. There he was, like standing in front of me. You know, maybe if I had gone to see Paul McCartney, I would have felt the same way. I've been to a million concerts, you know, and his presence was otherworldly, you know, and I don't know if that was a figment of my imagination or because how much I loved him. And I don't consider myself a super fan, and I don't, you know, I don't get starstruck. I've met a lot of people in the industry. The only comparison I mean, I could really bring to Ozzy was John Lennon. You know, John Lennon was this legendary, larger-than-life, humble figure. It's a sad day today, you know, it's June 22nd, you know, 2025, and the world is, it's moving on, you know, the birds are chirping, you know, the sun came up this morning. We just have one less beautiful soul on the planet, you know, and the Prince of Darkness, you know, what a dichotomy, you know. That Prince of Darkness was the shining light for so many people around the world, you know, and I'm very happy that he made it to a ripe old age, and you'll be missed, Ozzy, you know, and I wanted to put my 2 cents in because I felt it was really important, you know. I know a lot of other people are feeling the same. I just felt a real spiritual connection to him. I went through a rough patch of my life where, you know, drinking and drugging took me down, and I survived, you know, and watching him go through the same stuff was inspirational to me, you know, and I believe that I probably wouldn't be here. Ozzy's here, you know, he's in the clouds and the moon and the stars, and like I said, I wanted to put in my my commentary, you know, and I love you, Ozzy, you know, and I love all you fans of Ozzy too, you know. I love fans of rock and roll, you know, and thank you for giving me a purpose in life.